you clearly knew the strategy of the firm. It sounded as if you spent time really articulating a set of clear expectations for everybody. How did you do that part of the work?
Um, it started off with the anchor program for us. So it was a number of different things we did, but the leadership contract is the anchor program for us, and that's the framework we use to develop the mindset of that leadership is for everyone can be a leader. It's a choice you make, and it's not reserved for people who have the individuals reporting to them. So a lot of organizations talk about leadership at a certain level, and looking back, I think we did
Yeah.
as well. But we had the opportunity. We thought that we could be really effective if we built leadership from the kind of the middle out, a very inclusive kind of approach to leadership, where everyone can
Yeah.
make that choice.
Yeah, and certainly, indebted to you and Odlum Brown for bringing obviously the leadership contract into your organization. I'm always thrilled when an organization does that, and deeply, humbled. But you kind of took it, you took it to another level, and had a strategy. Like you said, you start to realize that in fact it's anyone can kind of assume that leadership role and develop that kind of mindset. So what was sort of the game plan that allowed you to sort of use that as an anchor, as an anchor program, and kind of continue to cascade it across the organization? Because in hindsight, 8 years is a long time. um, but you maintain that focus and that discipline. What insights did you gain about that over that period of time? Because that embedding piece that you talk about, and that sustainment piece is a challenge for many organizations. I'd love to understand what you've learned through that.
Well, we ask everyone to make their personal commitment about what they're going to be, what they're going to do to step up and be an intentional and accountable leader. Their leaders, the individual they report to, so their people leader is expected to have that kind of conversation. How can I support you? And then hold them accountable. We have 3 periods during the year. It can happen more than 3 times during the year, but we've put a framework in place that allows for supports 3 different conversations about performance and contribution. And a component of that conversation is always about how are you stepping up to being an intentional and accountable leader? What are you doing differently? Where have you misstepped? What's in your critical conversations pile? Are you dealing with that? And we continue to go back to that. One of the things we had to do in the early stage, and we still do it to some degree now, but we really had to give people almost I wouldn't say a script more, but more so some thought starters to be able to lead those kinds of conversations. So we really kind of dripped thoughts and ideas for carrying
Yeah.
on those conversations on a regular basis, really giving people the tools to have those conversations until they got more and more comfortable. And then as they got more comfortable having those conversations, we would then kind of increase the level and intensity of the type of question we gave them to lead with.
Yeah, and that's that's a powerful aspect of both that kind of acquiring the mindset, but then supporting them with those tools so that they can kind of translate those insights into their day-to-day leadership roles, individually and in the work with their teams, which is awesome. But it sounds as if they were. It also didn't sound like it was so prescriptive that people couldn't bring some of their own personality and own perspectives on it, but there was also a bit of a consistency. So as you kind of reflect on the work you've been doing here over the time, what were your kind of initial observations of how you saw leaders step up differently, and what have you continued to see since those earlier days?
I think about how leadership can defy, it can define you or strengthen you. And I think in our case, it has both defined and strengthened us. I've experienced more people doing the hard work of leadership. They've developed the courage and the persistence. When leaders act as bystanders, they're called out. I see firsthand how conversations about performance and contribution have more depth and impact. Those conversations go below the surface. And I've also noticed that leaders are much more invested in the success of each other. It's not
Hmm.
about competing with each other. It's about we're all invested in each other's success.